Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Okay, so let's get started with the next session. This session is titled Healthcare Systems, and the first presenter is Shankar VK from Johnson & Johnson based in the US. And Shankar is going to talk about significance of 5G cellular mesh networks in medical IoT domain. Very important topic.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so I will get started here. Just give me one second here. Okay. Thank you very much for having me on this forum. It's an honor to be presenting an abstract here. As the introducer just said, my name is VK Shankar. I am Vice President in Johnson & Johnson. My role is, running the digital surgery platform and robotics for Johnson & Johnson. Is my audio coming through okay, or do you need to adjust?
Yes.
I see a few heads turning behind, so that's why I was asking. Yeah.
No, your audio is fine.
Okay, awesome, good. The topic which I'm going to talk about here is significance of 5G cellular mesh, specifically the cellular mesh network in medical IoT domain. And this is a white paper abstract. So I think that abstract should be there with the audience there, or if not, it should be probably presented. But the crux of what I was going to talk about, as it should be no surprise to anyone that the explosion of IoT technology has really proliferated, touched every imaginable aspect of our lives. Right, from an application domain perspective, whether it is bringing in smartness into the day-to-day interaction which we have in our home, as an example, smart homes, to smart cities, which IoT has proliferated and achieved so much. Even in space technologies, I think the proliferation of IoT has started to happen, where even in space systems, machine-to-machine communication, which used to already exist, has taken a very significant connotation right now in terms of application of IoT technologies there. Now, IoT, what does it stand for? Internet of Technologies, Internet of Things, right? And the technology that enable that. The first word is very significant, right? Internet, implies that for this technology domain to be successful, ubiquitous connectivity is paramount, right? And without that, the things are not going to be seamlessly connected, seamlessly exchanging data. So connectivity is a very, very critical part of it, and is the most challenging part of it. The reason I say is many of us, when we interact with our phones in our daily life, I think we take connectivity to be granted, and the enablers of connectivity is set up in such a way that there is an inherent best effort to basically make that connectivity available to all devices which we use in our day-to-day life. But there are environmental challenges here, right? For example, in space, as I initially said, connectivity within that island, within say, let's say a space vehicle or a space station is possible, but when the connectivity has to be extended outside that island, that's where the challenge comes in. And medical medical domain is really not exempt from this challenge, because one of the most, I would say, difficult environments is the hospital environments, where there are many restrictions in the environment itself that pose a bigger challenge for connectivity. For example, right, medical hospitals or premises or hospitals, right, they are extremely RF inoculated entities, right? And what I mean by that is, given the medical devices being radiological devices and other things, having to have an environment that is free of RF intervention is very critical. And when the IoT devices or things are brought into that environment, wireless connectivity becomes a challenge. Wired connectivity, on the other side, is also a challenge because the infrastructure, the hospital's primary business value is to run a medical entity, right, which offers a medical service to their patients and their the folks who come into the hospital or medical premise, and asking them to invest on a wired infrastructure is a very difficult proposition. So wireless is probably one of the I would say a very viable means of getting connectivity, but the challenges around the environment are pretty significant for wireless connectivity to happen. And what we are going to see here is any connectivity solution, wireless connectivity solution that can basically help overcome these hurdles, which are inherent in a medical premise or a hospital, is much needed. And that is not the traditional point-to-point network which we are aware today in the cellular side of things, right, where you have a tower, be it a private 5G instantiation or be it a shared spectrum in the public cellular network. Proliferation of that into the premise is a challenge, and this is where meshing sees a significant and has a significant role to play, and basically is expected to solve much of the problems that are being today commonplace in the medical premise. Specifically, mesh network that operate in the 5G millimeter wave spectrum, which is 24 gigahertz and above, up to all the way up to 48 gigahertz, are exceptionally favorable, right, in the medical domain, because of their interference overlap being outside of what is typically existing in radiological entities within the hospital. So, with the utilization of 24 gigahertz and above, creating a mesh has taken a significant importance, and there are a lot of work that is being done in the industry to promote that. And not only there is work in the industry, but high-profile educational institutions are also doing a lot of innovations in this area. Today, what I wanted to do is just present this abstract with the notion of conveying the essence of mesh network to overcome from some of the challenges of an infrastructure, a cellular infrastructure proliferating into the hospitals, but devices being able to mesh among themselves using the 5G millimeter wave spectrum, and establishing a backhaul using the sub-6 gigahertz of 5G is a very relevant application area, because now you have an opportunity for these devices to do a peer-to-peer mesh network, establish that peer-to-peer mesh network, be it with a 5G private network that is brought into the hospital, or be it a sliced spectrum from a public network that is available. And the backhaul is a regular sub-6 gigahertz. So Johnson & Johnson, specifically the company I work for, is investing heavily on getting the millimeter wave modems into these devices, and so that we can be ready for the future when a reliable 5G private network and a 5G cellular mesh network is able to be established, and communication being provided via that. I will summarize it with one last point when it comes to cost, because for a hospital, right, I think cost is the paramount importance to them, right? I think any technology introduction, their expenditure, they would prefer it to be in, making their medical grade of equipments better, and medical equipments that bring in evolution in medical technologies better. So any auxiliary technology like communications, which is going to be assistive to that particular medical device, although it is critical, they are also very cost conscious about it. And especially coming out of COVID situation, which the world is right now, I think they have realized that their investment has to be in where they can complement the lack of resources, the shortfalls that have been created by personnel, not returning to work across the world. It's prolific. I'm sure some India has also seen some of this effects, but that's where their investment is. And mesh network offers this ideal sweet spot for cost, because for example, there are other wireless technologies like Wi-Fi and other things that can facilitate this, but those infrastructures are owned by the hospital. So the hospital has to invest in the infrastructure to get Wi-Fi 6 and other technologies, or even if it is wired technology like an Ethernet, they will have to basically invest in the cabling infrastructure and the network switch infrastructure, because it is a self-managed infrastructure. With 5G, there is this advantage of converting this CapEx to an entirely OpEx model, where you can invite the Vodafones, the Airtels, or the Verizons, or the T-Mobiles of the world to come and provide a 5G infrastructure, which is inclusive of 5G meshing, but completely do it on an OpEx model. And what I mean by OpEx model is outsource the management of this entire, what I would like to call as an overlay network. It is overlay because it is complementing the existing networks that are there in the hospital, and that can entirely be done in an outsourced model. So from a cost perspective also, unlike Wi-Fi 6, which is also comparable in terms of what it can achieve, including meshing and other things, from a cost perspective, 5G brings in that advantage. So I'm about 4 minutes over, but since we started a little late, thanks for permitting me to go a little over. But I will stop here and wait for any questions, as I think we have probably another 10 minutes for question sessions.
Thank you, Shankar. Any questions from the audience? I have maybe I can kick off with a question. Shankar, can you talk about some applications that you're looking at? What are the primary applications for your organization in this domain?
Yep. Excellent question. I think, and it's the most important question which we need to answer, because without the proper application demand, right? I think any technologies we introduce into the market might not see the uptake, right, as desired. The applications are multiple, right? I mean, for example, robotics platforms, robotic surgery is becoming extremely relevant in this world, and there is especially with COVID, they want even an operation to be done as much as possible in a touchless fashion, and robotic platforms are seen as one of the primary platforms that could enable this surgery, which can remote the surgeon from the patient, and it has a bunch of advantages, including keeping the isolation of the patient, and hence preventing any of this situations where we see with COVID in terms of contagious things passing along and proliferating in the medical environment also. So these robotic platforms, it's very critical for them to communicate with the infrastructure which allows these platforms to do the surgery effectively. There is also a requirement for these robotic platforms to communicate with other devices that are enabled with connectivity. And 5G in general, especially 5G mesh, which can allow for a point-to-point, device-to-device connectivity within the operating room, is exceptionally, useful, and that's where we are basically looking at it. I will wrap up by one more application domain, and many of you who are tracking this 5G also know that this is the first time where, with release 16 specification, REL 16 specification of 5G, we get time synchronous communication also, included as a part of the protocol. And robotic synchronization is very, very important. And again, that is an application area when the surgeon is basically doing the surgery from a remote area across the glass, or sitting in a different room and looking at the patient only through the glass. It is very critical to have time synchronous communication between when he moves, let's say, a joystick, and when the basically robot, responds to that. It has to be low latency, and that is another application area for 5G, peer-to-peer or 5G mesh network. So multiple, but I just stated the most critical ones here.
Thank you. Very interesting examples. Raj?
Thanks, Shankar. That was a very interesting presentation. So this is kind of a follow-up to what you said and previous plenary lecture that Vipin had given this morning. He had talked about any patient's favorite hospital bed to be his own bed in his own house, in his own home. So
Exactly.
clearly, now you're talking about collecting data in fairly high bandwidth, mostly within the context of a hospital. Would it have implications also in post-operative care, for example? And the extended amount of information and data that healthcare providers would be able to have access to in case there are complications after a surgery or some surgery.
It's an excellent point you made, and I'm glad to hear that Dr. Vipin spoke about it this morning. Post-patient care is very relevant, and there are a couple of reasons why 5G, private 5G, or even sliced 5G that is owned by the hospital proliferating into the aftercare area of the patient, which could be all the way in their home, is relevant because of what we in the US called as PHI, is personal and health information, which is highly secure from a perspective of also privacy annotated, right? And it is very, privacy annotated security that is there. And hospitals generally don't like those kind of data to come over a home network, which one would have, they would like their own network to basically bring that data to preserve the privacy, of that hospital data, which they are gathering from their devices, which could be sent home with the patient right after of the operation and other things. In fact, I have, there are at least 3 different devices which Johnson & Johnson, is supplying to hospitals, which hospitals sent home, when the patient is discharged, and then along with the patient, they send the device home, and that device monitors. And 5G and private 5G helps in preserving the privacy of the data as it is transferred over their private network, and not using the network of the patient, the home network of the patient, or any public network that is available. So absolutely, I think this extension is very relevant to post-patient care also. Excellent point.
Yeah, that's indeed a very good question in terms of transitioning care into the home setting. So thank you, Shankar, for this very educational topic. Certainly an important topic in the future. And thank you for joining us quite late in the evening for you.
Really appreciate
No, it's my pleasure. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And my sincere apologies for not being able to be there in person. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye. Bye.